You know, as I get older on this planet and as more new games come out from the AAA scene and even the indie scene, the more I find myself still getting the urge to go back and relive some of my, old games that I really love from whether it be my childhood or to where I was in middle school or high school. And as I relive these games, whether it be the older Call of Duties to the older Battlefield games or even just older games from the 2010s in general, I find myself just having a lot more fun and enjoyment, not to the same level as I was as a kid, but close enough to where I just find myself being zapped in and engrossed by them and would rather play these things than the usual slop that's been coming out. And at first I thought it was nostalgia, but I think there's more to the story than meets the eye. I mean, to flat out and say it, a lot of these older games, they're better. Because if you look at these games from a subjective, critical point of view, sure, comparing it to modern games that come out with more features, they might not hold up, but you feel like that there was actual passion and vision behind these older games. I mean, let's look at the case in point right now with the Black Ops 2 footage in the background. I mean, Black Ops 2 is viewed as a beloved classic by many fans of the series, and where a lot of people even figure and argue that this was when Call of Duty hit its peak, and after this Call of Duty, it started going downhill really quickly. But if you actually go back and play Black Ops 2 and take off those rose-tinted goggles, you realize that there's a lot of content that's offered in this game. Maybe sure it's not all good, but the campaign still has one of the most dynamic and unlockable feature-driven campaigns that we've gotten. Like, there's so much you can do in that campaign that it's crazy, even down to being able to customize your weapons, change the story, depending on your choices and outcomes. Like, there's so much content in Black Ops 2 at its base price value that made it warrant $60 at the time. And then the DLC and season pass only added to that further. And you just even look at how the game plays, how it's stable. It's not a buggy, destructive piece of shit mess on PC, aside from servers and, modern day hackers and cheaters and RC exploits. It still plays properly on PC. And that's what's great, because a lot of PC ports aren't like that these days. And that's a whole video I can get into. But no, when you look at a game like Black Ops 2 and you look at the past, it isn't just nostalgia. It's actually a functional working game. You see the vision, and you enjoy the vision, and you get on board with it. And I'm also exploring interesting themes. But I won't stop at just, Black Ops 2. I can also talk about any other older games, like such as even Left 4 Dead 2. Because Left 4 Dead 2 has co-op, which is also a good reason to revisit these old games, because we don't really get a lot of good couch co-op games in the AAA scene, and indie has been filling that void. But man, when was the last time you had a co-op game like Left 4 Dead 2, which I argue is one of, if not the greatest zombie co-op games ever created, all thanks to the director that comes into this game, which for those of you who haven't played Left 4 Dead 2, first off, what are you doing on this planet? Get a PC and play it, or go get a 360, or just an Xbox in general and play it. Because this game has some of the best co-op with the director, who basically changes your game depending on how well you're playing, depending on the difficulty, where no one run is going to be the same, give or take. The special zombies are going to be everywhere in different places throughout the map. It's spawn in at different times. Sometimes there might be more, might be less. It just adds this level of dynamic gameplay that I still don't know of another modern game that does something like that. Maybe Alien Isolation, from what I heard, with the director of the Alien, but otherwise, no. There's no really modern day game that does something like that, let alone even add co-op in. And sure, yeah, Left 4 Dead 2 has a lot of other highlights, which make it a standout game, but it's what I argue makes it so good and fun to play, especially even the replayability of this game with modding, because a lot of these older games have modding support that really just changes the look and feel of the game. I mean, in Left 4 Dead 2, I sort of have a pseudo remastered sort of pack that helps make Left 4 Dead 2 look a bit modern, I'd say, or at the very least helps update the visuals. Because, yeah, the one thing about these older games, you're not going to get the good, squeaky clean visuals, but I think art style is a lot more of a better argument when it comes to these older games than really graphics these days. Because again, indie scene, can't really get those nice HD, beautiful, crisp-looking, photorealistic graphics that AAA has, but art style will triumphant and even stand the test of time. There's even a lot of older games, too, that come out in the past that have a great art style that still stands the test of time, better than, some of the graphic-heavy games at the time that were trying to just go for realism. But that's a beautiful thing about it, is that Left 4 Dead 2 has such a massive modding scene that is just so nice to see thanks to the Steam Workshop integration. But there's other games out there that have something like this, not through just the Steam Workshop, but just in general have a vibrant modding scene. I mean, you can look at a series like Stalker. Stalker has one of the craziest modding scenes, which again, another video I could talk about. One of the craziest modding scenes I have ever seen in a video game, to where people full-on make their own engines of this game. Like as if they were given the source code to just do whatever the hell they want with it. It's why Stalker is such a popular franchise, not because of the original trilogy. It was the stepping stones for it, but the modding scene of this franchise is insane. And it's a nice and welcome change on a different note that Stalker 2 is starting to, dive into that modding scene. But that's what's the beauty of these older games. With so much time passing since their initial release, a lot of modders have, taken a look at these games, if it has a passionate following, and either made their own vision of the game, done like a Vanilla Plus enhancement, or even just making it a whole new hardcore experience even. So, anyway, like I said, I could gush on and on about not only Stalker, but older games when it comes to modding. But it's the true fact of the matter is that a lot of these older games have these vibrant modding scenes, and it helps extend the longevity of these games. I mean, Skyrim is another good example, but I don't think I need to explain Skyrim more than what can already be said. But the point is that's what makes these older games so nice to relive and visit that you might have in your library, because you never know what one of these older games in your library has in terms of a modding scene. I mean, you could look it up. Just search up the name of the game and search up mods, or search in Nexus, or ModDB, just one of those two major modding platforms, and there's a plethora of mods out there that you didn't even know about. But like I said, there's just so many examples. The only way you'd really be able to know is to just go through your library, if you're on PC, that is. Console, you unfortunately don't have this luxury, but if you're on PC, look through your library, see if one of the games that you have in there that you haven't played in a while has a very vibrant and active modding scene, because it could, maybe rekindle something that, was lost because of the slop coming out right now. And the last point I want to bring up is maybe some of these older games that you have that you didn't know were still being updated. I mean, Raid World War II, which is a game that I'm sure a lot of people have forgotten even existed, this game is still getting updates. It's still getting some love behind it after all these years, because there's a team of developers that were, I think, able to get the rights or the permission of Starbreeze to keep making updates, because this thing's still being updated, and I even argue it's a lot more stable than Payday 2, and is even similar to Payday the Heist in terms of, like, realistic difficulty in a sense, while also not being too wacky and zany and over the top. Which is to say there's nothing wrong with Payday 2 going that route, it's just, this is what Raid World War II is kind of doing, while still staying in the raiding, heisting genre. So that's a nice surprise, too, that some people didn't know about, is that a lot of these older games, even taking Raid World War II as an example, a lot of your older games might still be updated. Maybe not as much as they used to be, or just in general, but they might be getting some nice quality of life, bug fixing, and updates. So it's definitely worth checking out if, one of your older games does still get updates. And that's not a common thing, to be fair. I mean, there's not going to be a lot of No Man's Skies out there that are still getting bloody updates after frickin', what is it now, 7, 8 years? Actually, it's more like 9 years almost. Can you imagine next year it'll be 10 years since No Man's Sky came out? Ugh, that's an interesting reality. But still, the point is a lot of your older games might have those updates still coming in. So definitely worth trying out, especially if you are just kind of tired of the microtransaction, AAA-ridden slop that's just been plaguing and damaging gaming for God knows how long. And it's just truly a mess. It's really a mess of society that we live in when we have to witness this kind of stuff and all that. But we still have the old games, and we can still go back and play them. Despite what AAA companies might seem to think, we can still go back and play these older games. So take that as you will. Don't be afraid to go on to Steam, or even just go back and get your physical copies, because this can extend to retro games even. Because I bet you those retro games from the past are looking a lot better than what we're getting now. And it's probably going to be like this for quite a long time, with recent studies showing that PC gamers in particular are spending 92% of their time on older titles. So it kind of lines up that a lot of people are just not wanting to touch the newer AAA scene. So take that as you will. So Anyway, I think that's all I have to say in this video. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, hit that notification bell to know when I post a video. Also, share the video around. Really helps me get into the algorithm and gets me trending more and more, hopefully. And also check out my Rumble. It's a little backup I'm going to be having just to, you know, have a sort of safety net, because you never know what can happen with YouTube, especially with some of the recent changes they're doing. So give a follow there if you have a Rumble account, just to have a nice backup of me, because we are also still on the road to 500 subscribers. And as of recording, we are still sitting at a 470 subscriber count. So, like I said, we're just going to keep going and going forward and get one step closer to being monetized. So anyway, I will see you guys with another video. Y'all take care and have a good rest of your day.